We stopped here in the last video with the birth of the axial age, and the birth or rebirth of the great religions of the world. We ended with this slide, which asks, why? Why did the axial age happen? What actually took place during the axial age? Well, one key feature is what scholars call urbanization. More and more people, not a majority, but certainly more and more people began to leave the wandering life, nomadic life of hunter-gatherers, and began to live a settled life in villages and towns and even cities. As a hunter-gatherer, you're rarely exposed to anyone beyond the 8 or 10, maybe 12 other people in your small band. In a village or town, you're exposed to dozens, maybe hundreds, even thousands of other people. You're exposed to different kinds of beliefs, different ways of doing things, different practices. Human beings began to develop new ways of thinking about things and new ways of doing things. Together, in larger groups, human beings became more innovative. People also saw more and more kinds of human suffering: poverty, exploitation, some groups having certain rights and privileges and other groups not. They might have begun to wonder about this. This period of the axial age, roughly 800 to 200 before the Common Era, was also a period of great conflict and decline of the great civilizations in the different parts of the world that we mentioned: China and India, the Middle East. As periods of conflict and decline, there were periods of great suffering. And this led people to begin to ask about their religions, about the old concept of divinity. We make our sacrifices, we perform our rituals to our gods and goddesses, and yet we still suffer. Why is this? Questions that had never been asked before in the thousands of years and living in small groups, wandering from place to place, trying to survive in settled cities and towns with somewhat greater wealth, at least for a certain class. Certain people began to ask questions. It also turns out that periods of conflict and decline are periods of great human creativity in thinking and in technology and technique. And this was certainly the case during the axial age. One of the main results of this is a new notion of the individual self, an emerging self. New ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, these new social arrangements in villages and towns and cities began to contribute to people thinking of themselves more as individuals. Individuals began to think more about their individuality. This led to a lot of freedom, and as I say, creativity, greater freedom and autonomy to be an individual. But it also led to a greater sense of separateness, of being alone, of being responsible for oneself and one's destiny. But a new notion of the self begins to develop, a whole new social and psychological orientation toward what the individual human being is and what might be expected of it. more and more people began to believe that the human being is not just a part of a collective, not exclusively a piece of a collective whole. More and more it was believed that the individual human being has a real and worthwhile existence apart from the group. The individual has her or his own fate. More people began to be able to think the following thoughts. The group can disappear, my band, my family, my tribe. But I can remain. The group can be wrong. I can be right. I have my own rights, my own responsibilities. I have my own life. This was impossible to believe in a small group of hunter-gatherers where everyone depended on everyone else absolutely for survival. After generations in new arrangements in cities and towns, people began to be able to think that I am an individual. I have my own life. But I also have my own death. Now I'm more alone. Not completely, but I'm more alone. I'm more unconnected. New social arrangements and new ways of thinking were liberating, but they came with fear of being alone, and especially a fear of death. My continuity, my belongingness to a group, my continuity, my destiny, this life and in some other life after biological death was no longer guaranteed, no longer completely assumed. I have a destiny apart from the group. What happens? What is my destiny after death? If I am an individual, if I have responsibilities, if I have a fate separate from the group, what will my fate be after I die? The new religions, or the reborn religions that came into existence during the Axial Age, had proposals, had explanations for people about how maybe not escape death, how to escape death, but at least how to achieve some kind of continuity after death. They had proposals and explanations about different kinds of existences after biological death. Notions of heaven or hell, different kinds of afterlife, ideas about a soul that made a journey from one place, from the individual who had died to another place, even rebirth as another being. New religions developed ways to address new individuals' fear of individual death. And they also looked for ways to keep individuals connected by providing them with common beliefs. The cohesion was no longer provided by being alone and trying to survive with a small group of 10 or 15 other people. Religions looked for these new common beliefs to instill in people that would maintain the group, maintain cohesion, even in different social settings, like those found in villages and towns and cities. All this is new. It began to happen about 2,500 years ago. Out of a human existence in the world of hundreds of thousands or 1,000,000 years or 2,000,000 years. This is very recent, very new. And it had hardly existed, almost inconceivable in small hunter-gatherer tribes. The sense of individuality, individual destiny, aloneness, and fear of death. All of these notions are hard for us to understand as moderns because we have all grown up, and our parents and grandparents all grew up with these notions. It seems like they must have been here forever, but they are new in human existence. What happens as a result of the new emerging sense of individuality, religion's proposals to address the fear of death? The result was a crucial change in the very role, very definition of religion. Cosmic maintenance, performing rites and rituals, prayers and songs, dances, was no longer enough. Not enough for the religion's purposes. With the new individuality and a new selfhood coming into existence, new religions ask, the question arises, how will the divine powers treat me? What will be my destiny in this life and after? After death, what will happen to me? So religion was no longer a question only of cosmic maintenance. Rites and rituals remained an important part of religion, but cosmic maintenance was not the orientation, the basis, the focus. Religion became personal transformation. The notion of how I should treat other people, what kinds of relationships we should have, became a crucial part of religion. Developing myself, developing ourselves so that we become better people, we transform ourselves, became an important element of all the great religions of the world, all the great religions as we know them today. In other words, ethics comes into existence. Ethics became a crucial part of religious belief and practice. How I treat others will affect me, will affect the divine's opinion of me, and thus it will affect my fate, my ultimate destiny, my destiny in this life and in the next life. Forever. Ethics became crucial to religious belief. Ethics are crucial in the great religions of the world until the present day. Remains enormously important to religions in the year 2016. But we also have an axial age in Greece. And this is where ethics makes another crucial turn. The Greeks introduced us to the notion that ethics can be secular, that can be separate from religion, that our behavior need not depend on religious faith and divine command. The ancient Greeks were crucial in the development of this orientation in Western philosophy and Western ethics. This was fundamental and new in Western civilization.